Hello, everyone, and welcome to the NFL Week 3 edition of the Bacon Bets podcast. The road to 272 bets marches on, and the Falcons are 1-1. What a win. What a moment. What a night. I got to tell you, I don't think I ever remember any of the teams I cheer for having that kind of a comeback win. Maple Leafs, Falcons, Blue Jays. When was the last time the team I cheer for had a last-second win like that? I saw the graph tweeted out. I think it was the ESPN win probability graphic. Falcons 0.7% chance to win at the end of the game. I've only experienced the other side of that graphic, and I've experienced the other side of that graphic tens and tens of times. More times than I can count. I guess this is what it feels like to be on the right side of that graphic, and I gotta tell you, it feels great. The teams I cheer for lose that game 10 times out of 10. Maybe this is a different Falcons team, my friend. Maybe we all wrote off old Captain Kirk a little early, eh? What a magisterial performance that was at the end. The Saquon drop, the Kirk Cousins drive, the Young Wei Koo kick for the extra point, the interception at the end. I forget who it was. What a game, what a moment. And as a result, usually I record the first half of the podcast as the game is going on. I did not do that tonight. It was way too close. I didn't even have time to finish my notes. This is going to be a problem anytime the Falcons play on Monday night, which I think is one more time late in the season against the Raiders. So it is now 12:40. It's almost 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm just starting to record the podcast. So what a win. What a win for the boys. We're back. I said we needed to steal a win against the Eagles to have any kind of chance to avoid going down 0-3 because we're probably going to lose to the Chiefs. And that's what we did. And boy, oh boy, did we ever steal that win. We grasped victory from the jaws of defeat. Unbelievable. Electric. It probably didn't even matter that I'm recording this late because I don't think I'd be able to sleep right now anyways. Now the haters will say I'm using this Falcons win as an intro to distract from the fact that I went 6-10 this week, and to those of you who would say that, I'd say you're probably right. Rough week for your boy. I will say yes, 6-10 with the week 2 edition of the road to 272, but we did cash in the upset of the week, which was much needed. Saints plus 250 to beat the Cowboys. So 6-10 wasn't as bad in terms of units lost than a normal 6-10 would be. We still lost 2.34 units. That brings the road to 272 after 2 weeks to 15-16-1 for minus 0.76. So we are in the negative, unfortunately, but that's just going to give us a little adversity. We need to fight back now and get back to the green as soon as possible. Not only did I go 6-10 overall with all my picks last week, 0-5 on best bets. If I can bring those up and remember what those are. And to be fair, last week I said I don't necessarily recommend you just tail my best bets because sometimes, and I think if you go back year after year, the best bets usually have actually a lower win percentage than just my total record in the season. Yeah, Seahawks minus 3.5 lost, Jaguars minus 2.5 lost, Chiefs minus 5.5 lost, 49ers minus 6.5 lost, Texans minus 6.5 lost. A couple heartbreakers last week, and usually when you go 6-10, it's usually you have a couple heartbreakers. Texans. I mean, Cam Akers could have just walked into the end zone from a yard away, and that they probably would have covered that spread. Instead, he fumbled. Bears took it over, went down and scored a field goal to then for the Bears to cover, depending on what number you got of that. The Bears covered. I got a Texans 6.5, so the Texans did not cover. Commanders, Giants. Commanders specifically got down to the red zone a ton of times, could not convert those, drives to touchdowns. It was the same thing as the Lions Buccaneers game, 2 overs I thought deserved to hit. Neither team could score touchdowns, just a ton of field goals in those games. Any other heartbreakers that I'm looking at here? I mean, talk about can't convert in the red zone. Broncos couldn't convert in the red zone. Overall, hey, hand up though. Bad week. Some real bad bets. I'll take that Saints plus 250. That was a nice one for upset pick of the week. 49ers minus 6.5. Bad bet. Jaguars, I wouldn't call it a bad bet against the Browns. I would say, Jaguars got to get better on third down. I'd probably place that bet again if those two teams had a rematch. What was the Thursday night game? Bills-Dolphins, bad bet. Bad bet in hindsight. Tua's out. I was high on the Dolphins heading into the season. I think it's safe to say they're not going to win the Super Bowl. But hey, not every week can be a winning week, my friends. This is what makes the road to 272 so fun and aggravating and heartbreaking. And, it's what makes the roller coaster every Sunday exciting. There's going to be ups. There's going to be downs. I just have to accept that. At least we got that upset pick with the Saints to kind of soften the blow. So we move on by the way, also last week, the teaser lost. Chargers. The Texans. They at least cashed that leg of the teaser, but Rams +7 was the other leg, and they got crushed by the Cardinals. Also, if you have been following my Survivor picks through the first 2 weeks, you are one of, if you're in a Survivor pool, probably one of 40% of people who are still alive. Might even, with the Eagles losing tonight, be less than 40% of people who are still alive after week 2. I gave you Saints in week 1. That was an easy one. Texans in week 2. They pulled it out there. Avoid those, popular picks. That strategy has been beneficial. In terms of the official Bacon Bets podcast Survivor pool, we are down to the final 45 entries, and mine is one of them. I went Saints week 1 for that, and then I went Chargers week 2. I also have a second entry, but that one is my buddy Jason from back home for some reason couldn't sign up, so I gave him one of my entries. So I have one surviving entry that is mine. Do not let me win my own pool, please. That'd be tough. That'd be a tough look for you guys if you let me win my own pool. But we are down to... How many people are left here? With $3,622.50 on the line, we are down to 45 people. Last week, the Ravens lost, Cowboys, Lions, and Jaguars. So that was 4 of the top 6 pick teams lost last week. 49 eliminated, 45 survived. 3 people didn't submit a pick. That's a tough way to lose. So we are down now inside the final 50 for, what did I say is a grand prize? $3,622. All my Survivor pools, I'm still in a pretty decent spot. I'm in the one on Splash for it's $1 million grand prize. Me and my buddies split an entry, and we're still alive in that one. We took Buccaneers week 1, Texans week 2. $1 million if you win this, and we are down to 3,451 people. I love Survivor. It's just nice. It's nice to be surviving after the first couple of weeks with how much of a bloodbath it has been. And if you follow the Survivor picks that I've given out on this podcast, you're in a good spot as well. So once again, for week 3, I'll be going through, as always, my best bet for all 16 games. I will give you my favorite teaser bet. I'll give you my 5 best bets, even though they probably suck. You might want to fade them. And I'll give you my Survivor pick to wrap up the show at the end. If you haven't already, subscribe to the Bacon Bets podcast on YouTube. Rate and review the podcast no matter where you listen to it. The Falcons are 1-1. I'm happy. Losing betting week, but at the end of the day, I'll take the Falcons win. We got a big game this week against the Chiefs, but it is time to get into it. It is the NFL Week 3 episode of the Bacon Bets podcast. The road to 272 bets marches on.
I'm not a state. I'm a monster.
No, Lisa. The only monster here is the gambling monster that has enslaved your mother. I call him Gambler, and it's time to snatch your mother from his neon claws.
All right, here we go. As always, we're going to start with Thursday Night Football. Last week on Thursday Night Football, we had an AFC East matchup between the Jets and the Dolphins. We got another AFC East matchup between the other two teams in the division. Not the best primetime game of the year, in my opinion, but I guess we get to see Aaron Rodgers, which at this point, okay, whatever. I will be taking the Jets this time, though. I'll go Jets -5.5, -115. Now, I will say, because just like when I give out the picks, I also place the bets in chronological order. So this is the first bet I placed tonight. I bet it when I was at -5.5 at DraftKings. By the time I was finished writing my notes, it had already moved up to 6.5. Let me take a quick look to see if any 5.5s are still available. Probably anything under a touchdown, I'm still going to play it. No, I don't think there's any 5. It moved a point. There's nothing I can do. If I lock it in at 5.5, it moves a point 5 minutes later. What do you want me to do? So it's probably not going to be available at this number. I'm sorry. 6.5 is probably going to be the number that you're going to see it at. Would I play it at 6.5? Probably. I don't like it as much as at 5.5. But anything under that magic number of 7, I would still go with the Jets, Jets. Heading into week 3, my motto is the same. Don't overreact to the first 2 weeks of results. I think after week 3, I think a 3-game sample size is enough for me to put some more stock into what happened so far this season. I think generally now it's harder to do heading into week 3 than it is heading into week 2 because now we have 2 games of sample size. We've been watching football for 2 weeks. It's going to be hard not to overreact, but I think that is a very easy trap to fall into, even easier heading into week 3 than week 2. And I think the trap in this game is people think the Patriots might be better than they are. Upset the Bengals week 1, took the Seahawks to overtime in week 2. Make no mistake about it, I still think the Patriots are a very bad team. Now, I think their defense is solid. Their defense is probably going to win them a few more games than people expected this season. But let's not forget that their offense is Jacoby Brissett and Ramondre Stevenson and Demario Douglas. It's not an offense that's going to scare me very much, to be completely honest. The Jets defense, a little bit of a slow start, but I still think they're very good. So, I mean, even if best case scenario for the Patriots, they want to make the 2 defenses a wash, which offense would you trust more? To me, it's going to be Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. I think that offensive unit's going to get only better as the season goes on, and this will be their first home game of the season, which is going to be good for them. They played in San Francisco week 1. They played in Tennessee week 2. Now they're finally home. I think this could be a good offensive performance for the Jets, despite going up against a little bit of a tougher New England defense. Yeah, I think they get the win in the cover here. So we're going to be sipping on tea. I'm still sick. I was sick last week, and then I went on a bachelor party back in Canada over the weekend. So obviously, it's a couple drinks, couple smokes, and that's not a good way to recover from a cold, is to then go to a bachelor party and drink all weekend. So I don't know if I'm just still hungover or if I'm hungover and I'm still sick or I'm just still sick, but I feel like crap, so I'm going to be sipping tea so my voice holds up. Jets -5.5, -115 is what I got of that. I'd still play it at the current number of -6.5. Sunday's games, we're going to start with the Broncos and the Buccaneers. This might be my last chance at romance here with the Denver Broncos. I was higher on them than most people heading into the season. I came out of the closet as a Bo Nix guy, and that has not lived up well. They have not covered in either of their first 2 games. I've bet on them in both of their first 2 games. This is my last chance. If they don't live up to the expectations I have for them, it might be time to jump off the train. But at 7, I'll take the Broncos with a touchdown, +7, -115 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This might be a little bit less of a bet on the Broncos as it is a bet against the Buccaneers. I do think the Buccaneers offense is good, but I think their defense is lacking. Their defense 21st in opponent yards per play, giving up 5.5 yards per snap. The Broncos are 10th in opponent yards per play at 4.7. So I do actually think the Broncos have the better defense in this game. And the Broncos have generally been playing a style of football that's going to help them cover these touchdown spreads because they have been playing good defense and not trying to do too much offensively, which is probably good based on the skill players that they have. But at the end of the day, what's going to screw over that style of play is going to be turning the ball over. And the Broncos have turned the ball over the first 2 games. Average turnover differential of -1.5. You're not going to win games doing that. You're not going to cover spreads doing that. So I hope they get a little bit better turnover luck. And if they do, I think they can cover a 7-point spread against a Buccaneers team who, yes, has been impressive the first couple of weeks. I have less faith in some other 2-0 teams. I have less faith in the Broncos to keep this up compared to some other 2-0 teams. I think their defense is not nearly as good as people think. I will take the touchdown with the Broncos, +7, -115. Texans and Vikings. Another team that I will bet on once again, despite them not winning for me last week. It is the Texans. I do have more faith in the Vikings at 2-0 than the Buccaneers, but still, I'm not sold on them. I know there are Sam Darnold truthers out there. I've had some in my DMs already. I guess you could make the case that he outdueled Brock Purdy, although the numbers, Brock Purdy had a little bit of a more effective game. But Sam Darnold obviously did enough to get the win. At the end of the day, I mean, I did say preseason, I thought the Vikings were going to be a little bit feisty, but I don't think they're truly a playoff contender. There's still too much of a sample size from Sam Darnold throughout his career to convince me he's not a good quarterback, or at best he's an average quarterback. I don't think he can keep up this level of play. I think this is going to be a back-to-reality game for the Vikings. I'm shocked the Texans are just 2.5-point favorites. Also, Justin Jefferson is questionable heading into this week, and the way that injuries have gone this year, it's been crazy. I feel like there's been so many cases of we don't even hear a player is injured until right before. Christian McCaffrey 2 weeks ago, Evan Ingram this past week. There's been some other examples. Deebo Samuel of the 49ers, to be fair, got put on. Did he get put on injured reserve today, or is he just out for a few weeks? If Justin Jefferson's questionable right now, that's not a good sign, I don't think. So I would rather bet on the Texans now while the line is at 2.5. And if Justin Jefferson gets ruled out between now and the start of the game, you're sitting with a good ticket at 2.5 under a field goal. Like I said, I think this is just a back-to-reality game for the Vikings here. I think the Texans have lived up to their offseason expectations. They outplayed the Bears. They should have won that game by a lot more than they did. I think this is going to be another big win for Houston. I'll take the Texans minus 2.5, minus 110 in Minnesota. Eagles and Saints. I'll keep riding the Saints train, unfortunately. As a Falcons fan, tough for me to do that. But this Saints offense is different. Clint Kubiak has been, might have been the best hire of the entire offseason, it turns out. They have gone from ranking, I think, 31st in pre-snap motion to, I think, first. Derek Carr looks like he might be an MVP candidate, who people forget he was an MVP candidate once in his career in year 3 or 4 with the Raiders. This might be him. And it might be their year to at least be a playoff team. I still think Falcons might win the NFC South, but the Saints, and I said this last week, the past couple of seasons, they look good on paper, didn't follow through, and maybe that was because their offensive coordinator was good. Now with a good offensive coordinator, they are performing as good as they look on paper. They actually lead the NFL in net yards per play through the first 2 weeks. Obviously, 2-game sample size, that is small. But they now host the Eagles as a 1-point favorite, and I could not be lower on the Eagles right now. The Eagles' offense still very good. Saquon Barkley is obviously electric. Their defense is abysmal. Now, we thought that the Eagles did enough this offseason to fix their defense, and I know a lot of the pieces they got were young, obviously most notably Quentin Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. So maybe they just need a few more weeks to kind of get used to the NFL pace of play here. But they let the Packers have 7.1 yards per play against them in week 1. The Falcons offense got 6.6 yards per play against them in week 2. They haven't been able to stop the run. They haven't been able to stop the pass. They haven't been able to rush the passer. They can't do anything right. Anything. Not good. There's usually bad defense, but usually they go, it's one or the other. It's like you can't stop the pass or you can't stop the run, so you got to, try to compensate for one side or the other, or, you can't rush the passer, so then maybe, blitz a little bit more, maybe drop some more guys and cut, but if you can't do anything, then there's no real answer outside of just playing better. If you can't stop the run, if you can't stop the pass, if you can't rush the passer, if you can't stop teams in the red zone, if you can't stop teams on third down, although they actually were decent on third down against the Falcons tonight. Still, I got a lot of concerns about this Eagles defense, and I will not be betting on them until the defense decides to show up. Now they got to play against the hottest offense on the road, the hottest offense through the first 2 weeks. Maybe I'm overreacting, but based on the first 2 weeks, it seems like a complete nightmare matchup for the Eagles. So I'll take the Saints -1, -110 at home against the Eagles. I got my upset pick of the week next. Unfortunately, I'm not going with a big upset this week. I'm just going for a small one. I will take the Chargers +112 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers, who continue to be the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is probably, this is the third week in a row I'm betting against the Steelers. This is probably dumb. But, I mean, it is crazy to me. Year after year, it's the same Steelers team. They win games. The Steelers are 2-0, but yet they're 24th in the NFL in net yards per play at minus 0.7. Mike Tomlin, it might be the greatest coach in the history of sports. Now, the big thing that's going their way is that they have an average turnover margin of plus 2.5. The Broncos turn the ball over, and the Falcons turn the ball over. I think if once teams stop turning the ball over against the Steelers, they're going to start losing games. I think if you want to talk about a head coach that can match up with the ability of Mike Tomlin, Jim Harbaugh might be at the top of the list. The way the Chargers have been playing football, which is to play solid defense, protect the football, be smart on offense, try to manage the game, that type of team is going to be the type of team that's going to give the Steelers some issues. So I actually think the wrong team is favored in this one. The Steelers are a slight home favorite. I would actually set the Chargers, even with it being in Pittsburgh, as the slight favorite, 1.5 to 2 point favorite. 1 to 1.5 point favorite is what I would set the Chargers at. Instead, they are underdogs, so I'll take the Chargers on the money line as my upset pick of the week. I think Justin Herbert and company on offense is going to be able to do enough to get the win here. Because even though the Steelers, have been winning games, their offense has not been good, let's be honest. Effective. They're not turning the ball over. But it's going to be tough to continue winning games and are averaging just 15.5 points a game. That's not sustainable. I will take the Chargers to hand the Steelers their first loss this week. Packers against Titans. This is in Tennessee. I will take the Titans minus 2.5, minus 118 to the Packers. The Packers are just trying to keep their head above water while they're waiting for Jordan Love to come back. Malik Willis, I'm guessing, is probably going to get the start again this week. And yes, the Packers did enough to win last week against the Colts. They ran the ball 53 times. They only asked Malik Willis to throw the ball 14 times. That's not going to work against most teams. That strategy will get you a couple of wins, maybe just one win, maybe 2 wins, while you're waiting for your starting quarterback to get back. But that is not a sustainable way to continuously win games, especially against a team that I think has an elite defense in Tennessee. I called it before the season. Week 1, Titans defense was good. Week 2, Titans defense was good. Now, they lost both those games, but that was because Will Levis stinks, and he might stink and lose the game for them again this week. But with the Titans at home, with how good their defense has been against a Packers offense led by Malik Willis, I think the Titans get their first win here. They just need Will Levis to do something, and that'll be enough. Like, I'd be shocked if the Packers get more than... Their ceiling this game might be 14 points. If the Titans get to 20 points in this game offensively, they win this game. I think that's basically what this bet is. And I think 20 points covers a spread. Maybe the ceiling for the Packers is 17 points. 20-17 wins the game, covers a spread. I think they have the defense to do it. I think Will Levis can hopefully do enough offensively. Or maybe they should just run the ball. Maybe they should take the Packers strategy from last week and use it against them. Run the ball 53 times, win 20-17. Call it a day. Titans minus 2.5. Giants and Browns, I hate this bet. I really, really do. Anytime that you're going to bet the Giants, it's going to be an ugly one. It's a plug the nose bet for sure, but I'll take Giants plus 6.5, minus 105 in Cleveland. I know the Browns won last week. I mentioned it earlier. I thought the Jaguars kind of deserved to win that game. The Browns were outgained against the Jaguars last week, 5.9 yards per play to 4.6 yards per play. I have no faith in the Browns offense. They've averaged only 3.9 yards per play through the first 2 weeks. That is the third fewest in the NFL. That's well below the Giants' offense, which has averaged 4.6 yards per play. Last week, Giants did not beat the Commanders, but I thought their offense was, a lot better. I thought they forced the ball to Malik Neighbors, which is going to be their best bet in terms of trying to win games and trying to score points. I thought Daniel Jones looked a lot better. So, yes, they are 0-2, but 2-game sample size, the Giants' offense has been better than the Browns. There's no, outside of maybe the Panthers, there's not a team I would lay 6.5 points on the Browns with. Their offense is not good enough for me to have any confidence in them. Now, they might win the game, but winning by a touchdown and an extra point is a lot to ask of this Browns offense the way they've been playing. I will take the Giants plus 6.5, minus 105, and hope that just Deshaun Watson sucks again, which he probably will. Bears versus Colts. I think I only have one total bet this week, and it's this one. I'm going to go Bears Colts under 42.5. I nailed the Bears offense heading in the season. I said they're going to be slow to the gates. It's a lot to ask an offense which has a rookie quarterback, a rookie wide receiver, running backs and receivers who played for other teams, and then toss in a brand new offensive coordinator to Chicago. Their offense has been the worst in the NFL. 3 yards per play so far through the first 2 weeks. Worst in the NFL by half a yard. I do think their offense gets better as the season goes on. But they're all out of sorts right now. Especially their offensive line is atrocious. With that being said, I don't want to bet on the Colts because I have a lot of concerns about the Colts offense too. I bet on them last week against the Packers, thinking the Packers weren't going to be able to score many points. Unfortunately, the Colts only scored 10, so it didn't matter. Anthony Richardson has completed just 49.1% of passes so far this season. He has already thrown 4 interceptions. Anthony Richardson may not be a good quarterback. He played in 4 games last year. He actually did not play nearly as well as people assumed that he played. That they talked about, oh, Anthony Richardson is back. The Colts are going to be way better than they were last year. Not necessarily. He's not been accurate since coming to the NFL. Very low completion percentage. He ran the ball successfully last year in the few games that he played in. We haven't quite seen that level of his running so far this season, or at least we did a little bit in week 1. But I don't trust either offense to score. So, like, if I don't like either offense, which side do I back? I guess the under. You know? Because I certainly don't think the Bears offense is going to figure things out yet. But then, I mean, I bet on the Colts, and then they do what they did last week and score 10 points. I don't trust the Colts offense, and then I bet on the Bears, and they average 3 yards a play again and score 13 points. So instead, I'll just bet the under. And it's in the 40s still for some reason. 42.5. Minus 105. Easy bet. I'll take the under. And I think it's my only total bet of the week. All right, we're halfway through the games. I'm going to take a quick break, and I'll be back in just a moment to break down the second half and then give you my teaser and best bets and all that. Be right back. All right, we march on. Dolphins against the Seahawks. I'm going to go Dolphins plus 6.5, minus 118. Skylar Thompson is starting in this game for the concussed Tua Tagovailoa, but I'm not ready to completely quit on the Dolphins just quite yet. I mean, that's obviously why the Dolphins are 6.5-point favorites, but if Tua was playing, what do you think the line would be for this game? I would assume the Dolphins would be a slight favorite, like maybe a 2-point favorite in Seattle. Maybe I'm wrong in that. I don't know what the look-ahead line said, but even if it was a pick'em, let's say, just for argument's sake, it was a pick'em. Tua is 6.5 points better than Skylar Thompson. I don't think enough people give Skylar Thompson enough credit. I don't think he's terrible. I think he's fine. He's gotten a few wins when he's had to start for the Dolphins over the past couple of seasons. I mean, at the end of the day, the Dolphins still have offensive weapons. You know, as long as he can get the ball in the hands of the Dolphins' weapons, they can stay in this game. Now, the Seahawks have looked very good the first few games of the season, especially their defense has been fantastic. But at the end of the day, they looked bad in the first half against the Broncos. They ended up beating them, and then they had to go to overtime to beat the Patriots. I'm not sold on the Seahawks yet. I'm certainly not sold on them enough to bet on them as a 6.5-point favorite, even though they're going up against a backup quarterback. I still believe in the Dolphins. Yeah, they're not going to win the Super Bowl. They're not going to go on a deep playoff run. I mean, we'll see how long Tua's out for. I mean, I don't know how many times a guy can get concussed. But I still like them enough to take them plus 6.5, minus 118 on the road in Seattle in this one. Panthers and Raiders, this one has been fascinating. The Raiders were 7-point favorites this morning. And then the shocking news came out that Bryce Young has been benched. The number 1 overall pick from last year has been benched, it's truly sad. Like, obviously, I'm a Falcons fan. I don't want to see the Panthers struggle this much. I don't want to see Bryce Young struggle this much. He seems like a good guy. All reports are he's a good guy. It's straight up sad watching him play. Like, I want to look away when Red Zone shows the Panthers offense. It's not good. So they announced Andy Dalton was going to be starting for the Panthers, and the line has moved from Raiders -7 to Raiders -5. It has moved 2 points in favor of the Panthers since they announced that Andy Dalton would be starting. And the total went from 37.5. It got as high as 41.5. It's now back down to 40.5. So it moved as much as 4 points towards the over. I don't think I've ever seen lines for a game move in this much in favor of the team they announced their backup quarterback's going to be starting. That is tough. That's a tough pill to swallow for Bryce Young. I'm sure he's probably not paying attention to the betting lines, but yikes, dude. Yikes. That might be it. If you listen to my season preview episode, I took my best bet for the Panthers. My best futures bet was Bryce Young under his season-long passing yards total. That's a win. That's an easy win this early in the season. By far the earliest win of my best bets for all 32 teams. Now, obviously, I guess he could come back and then end up going over that total, but I'm going to assume unless Andy Dalton gets hurt, we're not going to see him at least for a little while. And let's say even Andy Dalton does get hurt this game, Bryce Young's right back in there. He's still not going to go over that passing yards total. So that's a dub. That's a dub for the fellas. With that being said, I think the line movement was an overreaction. So now I will jump on the Raiders -5 at -112 against the Panthers. Is Andy Dalton 2 points better than Bryce Young? Maybe. Maybe. I don't necessarily think so. Was Bryce Young good? No, he was terrible. But the Panthers team as a whole, their roster leaves a lot to be desired. Their defense ranks 25th in opponent yards per play. Their defense has been terrible. They lost their best defensive player for the season. It's not like Andy Dalton was a great quarterback when we've seen him the past number of years, 6-9 in his last 15 starts, while playing for better rosters or on better rosters than what he's playing on this week. Andy Dalton's 35 years old now. He's not mobile. Although the Panthers' offensive line has surprisingly been good, which is, another point against Bryce Young. So maybe they can protect Andy Dalton, but still, I'm going to take a Raiders team. They're playing their first game at home this week. Their defense, I still have a lot of faith in. I love Max Crosby. I love their defensive line. Gardner Minshew has been slinging it. The Panthers still, even with Andy Dalton, not enough for me to take the Panthers in the spot. I think with Andy Dalton, the line should be maybe 6.5. 5, that's an overreaction. That's a people hate Bryce Young overreaction here. I will lay the 5 points with the Raiders at -112, and I'll be happy to do so. Ravens Cowboys, one of the games of the week this week. The Ravens now 0-2. They desperately need this win. It's going to be tough for them to come back and make a push for the playoffs, especially in the AFC East or in the AFC. Although, luckily for them, the Bengals are also 0-2. The Browns are 1-1, so I guess the AFC North is still going to be open for them. But they need a win this week, and I will be backing the Ravens against the Cowboys -1. I think this is a matchup bet, although I will say I got a lot of concerns about the Ravens' pass defense. They've been stopping the run lately, but their secondary has not been good through the first 2 weeks. It's part of the reason why I took the Raiders with the points last week. But the Cowboys' weakness the past number of seasons, not just this year, but the past number of seasons, has been their run defense. The run defense is still not very good this year. Through the first 2 weeks, 23rd in opponent yards per carry, giving up 4.9 yards per rush. And now you take on one of the best rushing attacks in the NFL in the Ravens. So if the Ravens just run the ball, they've already been averaging. I don't have it here in front of me. What have they been averaging per rush? Yards per rush attempt. They've been averaging 5.7 yards per carry through the first 2 games. If they keep doing that, if they just keep the ball on the ground, if their defense can do enough to slow down the Cowboys' pass attack, I think the Ravens can run away with this, pun intended. So I'll take the -1 on the road in Dallas. I am taking a lot of road teams this week. We'll see if that holds up. This is one of them. Ravens -1, -110 in Dallas. 49ers and Rams, sell your stock in the Rams. It's over. What an all-time disastrous start to the season. Not only are the Rams 0-2, the list of guys they have on injured reserve or about to go on injured reserve is disgusting. Truly just one of the worst starts to the seasons injury-wise I think I've ever seen for any team. Darius Williams, corner. Joe Noteboom, offensive line. Steve Avila, offensive line. Puka Nacua, all of them are on injured reserve already. Cooper Kupp, doubtful for this week, probably going to get put on injured reserve. John Johnson, doubtful for this week, probably going to get put on injured reserve. Jonah Jackson, doubtful this week, probably going to get put on injured reserve. If those 3 guys get put on injured reserve, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 starters on this team already on injured reserve. It's over for the Rams. It's over. And then not only that, they haven't been playing well either. Net yards per play, minus 1.9. They've given up 9.3 yards per pass attempt. Their secondary has been atrocious. I mean, a big reason of that is the injuries. They were thin at defensive back already, and now, they've gotten only thinner. I'll lay the points for San Francisco. I don't even see anything. Who is Matt Stafford going to throw to? What are we doing? Although the 49ers secondary hasn't been good either, but the Rams are screwed. Just throw in the towel. It's over. 49ers minus 7.5, minus 105. Lions, Cardinals. I will be taking the 3 points with the home team in this one. I will go Cardinals plus 3, minus 110 against the Lions. Cardinals also have a lot of issues, specifically in the secondary, but this is a bet against the Lions, especially with the Lions laying points on the road. Their offense seems out of sorts. Now, maybe this could be I'm not listening to my own advice. Maybe I have, maybe I'm not. Maybe I am overreacting to how the Lions look the first 2 games of the season. But I've never been a Jared Goff guy, even the past couple of seasons when he's had good years, and now he might have turned into a pumpkin. QBR of 37.1. He's thrown 3 interceptions to only 1 touchdown, averaging 6.3 yards per throw, 1.3 yards fewer than he did last season. It's not good. Last week they took on the Buccaneers, who aren't that good defensively. Rams in week 1. They ran the ball against the Rams, but their secondary has been atrocious. He has played 2 bad secondaries, and he has not been able to get the job done. Another bad secondary that he gets to face this weekend, but the Cardinals offense has looked fantastic. Got Marvin Harrison in the mix this past week. I think the Cardinals offense is good enough that I will take the 3 points with Arizona at home. They are 5th in the NFL in yards per play at 6.2. The Cardinals are. Sunday night football. At least we beat the Eagles, because this one's going to get ugly, I think. Falcons host the Chiefs. We got to take on Patrick Mahomes. I doubt Taylor Swift is going to be at this game. I can't really envision her going to Atlanta for a game, but it is a Sunday night football game, so maybe she will. I'll take the Chiefs minus 4.5. Minus 4.5, minus 105. The Falcons' biggest weakness on defense is their lack of depth in the secondary. They're very thin. They're obviously 2 good safeties, 1 good cornerback. Other than that, it's tough. If there's a guy in the NFL who can take advantage of a thin secondary, it's Patrick Mahomes. Not to mention the Falcons are coming off a short week after a big emotional win against the Eagles. Not to mention the Falcons don't have a pass rush. A little bit of a better pass rush than last season, but still, Patrick Mahomes is going to have all day to throw. Falcons have always been bad against mobile quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts rushed for like 86 yards tonight or something like that. But Mahomes is going to have a field day, I think, unfortunately. Falcons, their defense actually has been decent, but this is a terrible matchup. Patrick Mahomes frightens me so much. When I make my DFS lineup later this week, I'm probably going to put in Patrick Mahomes as the quarterback. I'll probably pay up. Maybe I'm just scared. I don't know. But hey, listen, I bet on the Falcons the first 2 weeks. This is not the week to take the Chiefs. Maybe, or take the Falcons. Maybe even take the Chiefs in Survivor. Although I think the Chiefs I think the Chiefs will play Panthers later on this season. That might be an 80-point win for them. So maybe save the Chiefs for then. But listen, Kirk Cousins looked very good, much better tonight than he did in week 1. Still has room to improve. He recognized that in his post-game interview. Falcons, they did their path to winning this game is running the ball with Bijan, keeping Mahomes off the field. But still, minus 4.5. I envision this could be a bloodbath. It really, really could be a bloodbath. I'm going to lay the points of the Chiefs in this one. I just don't see how Mahomes doesn't, tear up this Falcons defense. It's a nightmare matchup for the Falcons. Chiefs minus 4.5, minus 105 on Sunday Night Football. Monday Night Football. We got a doubleheader, 2 games on Monday night. I guess not technically a doubleheader since they're both kind of will be going on at the same time. The first one is the Jaguars and the Bills, and I will take the road team with the points. I'll take Jaguars plus 5.5. Another team I'm not quite ready to quit on yet. Jaguars, their issues has been on third down, converting just 26.32% of third downs. That's not good. Also not converting red zone trips to touchdowns. But as a whole, they have kind of moved the ball down the field and kept their opponents from doing that. They're 16th in the NFL in net yards per play at plus 0.2. So I think the spread is a little bit out of hand. I'd probably set it at 3.5 in favor of the Bills. I also think this could be a bit of a sell high spot on Buffalo, a team that just because of their win last week against the Dolphins on Thursday Night Football, I think people are starting to crown them as the clear number 2 or number 3 team in the AFC. I don't know. I still got concerns about the roster. I still have concerns about the defense. Actually, if I wanted to get like an actual little bit of a sizable underdog to win outright, I think I would go with the Jaguars. But I'm going to go, I'm going to take their points. I think they can keep this game a lot closer than people think. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm selling high on the Bills. I'm buying low on the Jaguars here. I'll take Jacksonville plus 5.5, which leaves me with the Commanders and Bengals and another underdog for this pick here. I will take the Commanders plus 8.5 minus 115. If you've been listening to this podcast the past couple of years, you should know this. I know I have Bengals fans who listen. You guys hate me. I don't hate the Bengals, but I just think they are the most overvalued team in the betting market right now. And have been for a couple of years. They made the Super Bowl. I've never seen a team make a Super Bowl 3 years ago and then playing a close AFC championship the game after. And then still 2 years later, they're like, oh, the Bengals are elite. Watch out. Nobody wants to play the Bengals. Fuck the Bengals. Who gives a shit? So what? They played the Chiefs close last week. They lost to the Patriots outright as 8-point favorites the week before. Their defense stinks. T. Higgins, who knows? He's probably still going to be out. Listen, I like Joe Burrow. I do. I like Cincinnati fans. Don't blame me for betting against the Bengals. Blame the market. Blame bettors. Blame odd makers for making them as overvalued as they are. Yes, they covered last week. I know. I get it. I don't think they should be 8.5-point favorites. I mean, we just saw 2 weeks ago there. This is the same line for the Patriots against the Patriots, and they lost outright. And I think the Commanders might be a better team than the Patriots. Commanders are 1-1. No one's kind of given them the time of day. They've been decent through the first 2 weeks. 10th in the NFL in yards per play. Their defense has been solid enough to keep them in games. They have not been good in the red zone. They've got to convert red zone trips to touchdowns. But they've actually run the ball very well. Brian Robinson Jr. has actually been pretty good for them on the ground. Jaden Daniels has been solid as a rookie through his first 2 starts. Commanders aren't going to be a playoff team. They won't make the playoffs, but I do think the Commanders are truly being a little bit undervalued in the betting market right now. I really do, and I think the Bengals are overvalued. So for that reason, I'll take the 8.5 points with Washington in the final game of the week on Monday Night Football. There you go. Let's recap the picks, and I'll give you my 5 best bets, my teaser, and we'll talk Survivor. But to recap, we go Jets minus 5.5 on Thursday night, Broncos plus 7, Texans minus 2.5 against the Vikings, Saints minus 1 against the Eagles, Chargers plus 112 against the Steelers, Titans minus 2.5 at home to the Packers, Giants plus 6.5 in Cleveland, Bears Colts under 42.5. It is my only total bet of the week. Dolphins Seahawks, Dolphins plus 6.5. Raiders minus 5 to the Panthers, Ravens minus 1 to the Cowboys, 49ers minus 7.5 to the Rams, Cardinals plus 3 to the Lions, Chiefs minus 4.5 to the Falcons, Jaguars plus 5.5 to the Bills, Commanders plus 8.5 to the Bengals. My 5 best bets of the week, and you should fade these because I think I'm 1-9 on my best bets so far this season, 1-9 or 2-8. I like the Chargers money line against the Steelers. I like the Saints minus 1. I like the Titans minus 2.5 to the Packers. I like the 49ers minus 7.5 to the Rams. And I like the Chiefs minus 4.5 to the Falcons on Sunday night. Teaser of the week. We're going to take the Chargers where they are 2-point underdogs. This is a 6-point teaser. So I will take the Chargers from +2 to +8 against the Steelers. Steelers might win. Maybe they cover the normal spread. I can't see the Steelers offense covering an 8-point spread against the Chargers. I really can't. They're going to take the 49ers down. By the way, with that Chargers teaser, we are crossing the key numbers of both 3 and 7. Perfect. And we're also going to cross the key numbers of 3 and 7 by taking the 49ers down from -7.5 to -1.5 against the Rams. So teaser of the week, We are 1-1 on these so far. I'm going to take Chargers +8 against Steelers. 49ers -7.5 versus Rams for a 6-point teaser. Survivor. Interesting week for Survivor because there are some big favorites, but with how much the big favorites have been losing recently, it's scary to take any big favorite. I think I'm deciding between two. I have not locked in my pick yet. Well, I'll tell you which one I think you guys should go with, but I'll kind of give you my thought process here. I mean, Raiders were kind of the obvious pick if they start Bryce Young, but we don't really know, even though I'm on them to winning cover, we don't really know what we're going to get against Andy Dalton, so I'll probably pass on that. You could go Chiefs against the Falcons. You really could, but I'd wait till the Chiefs play the Panthers a little bit later. I'm deciding between two. I just want to see if there's any other obvious ones here. Buccaneers, big favorites to the Broncos. I don't know. The Broncos defense scares me. So I really think you got two options to go with. I think you take the Jets on Thursday night, which could work. It'd be nice in Survivor to get that Survivor pick over with on Thursday night. Then you can just chill on Sunday in terms of Survivor, which I think I have several entries across several pools left. And in at least one entry, I'm going to be taking the Jets on Thursday night. We'll see which entry that is. But I think my number one pick, at least for this podcast, what I'm going to recommend is Bengals. Now, I know I just talked up the Commanders, and I'm betting on the Commanders +8.5. But the Bengals are at home. The Commanders do have a weak secondary Joe Burrow should be able to take advantage of. There's not a lot of spots that I actually like the Bengals this season. If we bring up their schedule here. Because the two weakest teams that they play after this are the Panthers and the Giants, but they play both of them on the road. Next week, they have the Panthers on the road, so you could save the Bengals for next week, but obviously you'd prefer to take Survivor picks when they're playing at home. Then 2 weeks after that, they have the Giants, but that is also a road game for the Bengals. Their only other easy home games would be the Raiders in November, Steelers December 1st, if you count that as an easy pick, but I don't know if I ever would. And that's Broncos, I guess, week 17. So I think this might be the best time to take the Bengals. Even though I'm betting the Commanders, they're 8.5. Now, the biggest downside is the last game of the week, so it's going to suck to wait until then. But based on the Commanders' secondary, based on Joe Burrow at least found something last week, even though I like the Commanders to cover, I think the Bengals might be the Survivor pick. They might be the most popular pick this week, which could be scary. If you don't want to go with them because you think they're going to be the most popular pick this week, and you're listening to this before Thursday, then go with the Jets. I don't think a lot of people like to pick the Thursday night game. But those are probably going to be the most two popular picks regardless, though. There's not a lot of great sneaky picks. I've had sneaky picks. Saints were sneaky. Texans were somewhat sneaky, although not really. I think they were the second most popular play. Go Raiders, I guess. You could go Raiders if you want a little bit more of a sneaky play. I mean, there's not going to be a ton of times that you're going to want to take the Raiders this season. I probably would have taken the Raiders if Bryce Young was starting. Andy Dalton, just too much of an unknown. I really don't like the Buccaneers. Could be a big letdown spot for Tampa Bay. And that's pretty much it. You could go 49ers against Rams. The 49ers, next week is going to be the 49ers week. Next week, the 49ers host the Patriots. I'm probably going to use 49ers next week, so I'm going to save them. So my pick for the podcast, take the Bengals at home to the Commanders on Monday Night Football. I almost made it through the whole entire podcast without coughing. One little cough to wrap things up. How about that? Gamble or bless. Subscribe to the Bacon Bets podcast on YouTube. Rate and review the podcast no matter how you listen to it. Thank you all so much for watching. Let's get back on the green. Bad week with my bets. We got that week out of the way. We're looking ahead to week 3. Let's get back on the winning side of things. And let's have a week, my friends. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. Gamble or bless. I'll talk to you Thursday, actually. I'll record Wednesday night, but it's 2 episodes a week, player prop countdown. Pretty sure we had a winning week this past week. I'll record that Wednesday night. That'll be out Thursday morning. I'll talk to you then.